Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Welcome, everybody, to the Craft Beer News segment, Better on Draft for August 18th, 2023. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Let's go around and see what everybody is drinking, starting with Dan. Dan, what do you got?
I have got a Yingling Lager.
Wendy, what's on tap for you? Wendy, you're muted.
I really muted myself instead of unmuting. Anyways, I am drinking an Alaskan Juno juice.
Just like our guest earlier this week, I too am drinking an Alaskan beer, the Alaskan Amber Alt Style Ale. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it with Jeff and Marcy. Plenty to learn from sustainability to brewing, being one of the first craft breweries in Alaska, the changes and trials that go on up there. It is a wonderful listen. But we are talking about the craft beer news that is going on this week. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass it right over to Dan. Dan,
let's do it.
What is the article you want to chat about today?
So just as we talked about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the last time we had a show, that we were hoping some of these IPA fads would go away. And then all of a sudden, Sierra Nevada says they're doubling down on IPAs in 2024 and greatly expanding the selection. Pretty straightforward article. I'm not going to really go into and read it, but they're really expanding the hazy little things and making all kinds of variants to start sending out. So when does this end? Do you feel that this is just another brewery chasing a fad versus sticking with their with? Because we talked to, like you mentioned, Alaskan on the previous interview show, and they stick to what they've been doing. They're not chasing fads. Yeah, they started a distillery and it's doing well with the RTDs, but you don't see them pumping out 19 variants of an IPA and chasing that newest trend. Is this just another instance of a brewery, a well-established brewery, chasing a fad? And when do you guys think it's going to end, or it's going to be too much? Ken, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't think it is going to end anytime soon. If you guys are not listening, or if you're listening via the podcast and not watching the video, go check out the video. You can find it on all video platforms. That's Kick, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, etc.
Render, yeah.
So you can see the article that's going on right now, and as you can see, it's kind of scrolling down and showing all of the different types of brands that Sierra Nevada has been expanding to over the past handful of years. And within IPA, I think Sierra Nevada saw exactly what New Belgium did with regarding the massive amounts of Voodoo Ranger that's out there, and how Voodoo Ranger basically took over their entire portfolio. That's going to be the same with even Bell's here in Michigan, where we have now Black Hearted, Double Two Hearted, Light Hearted.
It seems to be the new trend with a lot of these companies.
I think people want to be IPA curious, but not IPA heavy. And that's why they're going into all these subcategories of IPAs, which is why we hear things like cold IPA, or like our guest earlier today talked about like black IPAs. Like, these are the types of beers that are going to sell because people want them. When I was at the Delta Lounge in Dallas last week, like, that's what they had, is they had an IPA there. They didn't have much of anything else other than Shiner Bock, but even Shiner, they have their IPA brand that they're just releasing when we had Shiner on the show. So, I mean, IPAs, they talk about non-alcoholics too. I think that's just, we're still trending towards IPAs because IPAs are still the big dog. But Wendy, what do you think?
I agree. I don't think this is anything really new. I mean, even at local breweries, you see where they do a lot of variants of their beers that are most popular. I mean, look at Dragon's Milk. I remember a few years ago, Winter Beer Festival, we called it 50 Shades of Dragon's Milk because they came with like every variant, and it was an amazing beer festival. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it was amazing because I don't remember a lot of it. It was 50 Shades of Dragon's Milk, but I just think this is kind of normal, that they're looking for a way to expand their profile without creating something 100% new. We see it a lot. Look at Oddside and all of their different versions of the same thing on a couple different SKUs they have.
Yeah, Oddside's got the bean flicker, which is their kind of like
Of course, you went to that.
I mean, that's the beer where they're adding all their adjuncts and having different ones, and that's what people were drinking at the Summer Beer Fest when I was pouring for them. Was
Mosaic, not Mosaic,
marshmallow, something. Yeah, so that's
they've
that's
got the fruitsicles, and they got
the fruitsicles. They also have the
dank juice.
Dank juice, the spiritless cocktails that they just launched. So yeah, their Oddside is obviously its own beast. I think Oddside is kind of what we treated Shorts as maybe 10 years ago, with all the options that Shorts used to bring into the market itself.
Yeah.
But I think that these breweries, I mean, I understand where Dan's coming from, where it just seems too much, like decision overload.
Well, it's funny too, because Sierra Nevada makes, one of the biggest pails out there, in the country, if not the world. But they don't experiment with that and make different variants. They go on to this IPA craze because, just to try and stand out. It's like you already have a beer you could do this with, but you don't. It's just it's a little frustrating to see.
I think as much as we understand Sierra Nevada as a whole, as a buyer, nobody asks what's your pale ale. They ask what your IPA is.
That's fair.
And I think that is a little bit of marketing. Whether they utilize like Sierra Nevada Pale as the base and do other things with it and just call it an IPA, because the rules don't matter and the points are made up. But I think that's why they would not do regular Sierra Nevada. Because I mean, Voodoo Ranger, if I'm not mistaken, was just your regular New Belgium IPA, but now it's literally everything. They're hazy Voodoo Ranger. It's the same with the Hearted series: hazy hearted, two hearted, double hearted, black hearted. Like those places had an IPA to branch off of, whereas Sierra Nevada didn't. They just had a regular pale. And again, I think it's just a marketing thing. But I mean, do you think that, I don't want to say jump the shark, because I think we've probably been saying this for 20 years.
We've been saying it forever.
When we started the show during the 85 Crooked Tree days, like, do you disagree with their thoughts of going all in on these beers, or do you think that what do you think would be better for them?
I personally think it is, because I think IPAs are played out. You feel similar to the way I do about them. But, they have things like Narwhal. There's another dark beer they made. I think Bigfoot. Yeah, things like that. Like, expand on that. You remember the line for people getting Narwhal at GABF last year? People want that stuff too. We don't need 85 variants of hazy little things. Save that for Dark Horse. I think something different.
I think GABF is its own beast. Like, I really don't think you could consider
can't judge it based on that.
No, because it's basically beer geeks and like just trashy beer nerds who are on Untapped the entire time, checking in their 1 ounce pours and giving a 2-paragraph review. You've got the people who are there to party. Like I saw a handful of like bachelor birthday parties that were running around. But like, you go and you Narwhal because it's your opportunity to get Narwhal where you don't have to chase a truck, or you don't have to gamble and hope that Jack over at Satuna Liquor in Rochester Hills, just south of M59 on Rochester Road, has a bottle. That's with Utopia. I don't even bother getting Utopia, but the opportunity to get Utopia at GABF, sure, I'm going to try it.
Of course, but am I going to buy a bottle of that?
Am I going to buy Utopia and all the Utopia alternatives, like Worldwide Utopia Stout and stuff? Like,
I do have a bottle of that.
But that's the thing is that there's certain styles that people are going to run to when the opportunity is there, like Media Noche over at Weldworks. Yes, Weldworks. The line for Media Noche was crazy, but when you go into Weldworks, it's like thick milkshake IPAs. Like that's just what they sell. So I think Sierra Nevada just doesn't have an IPA they can truly tie their name to really do the IPA game. But again, that was also before Hazy Little Things. The Little Things series really kind of exploded. I wish we had, because I know we talked about the portfolio like a month and a half ago, and we talked about like percentages of their portfolio for Hazy Little Things. But yeah, I think this is just where we're going to be in a world where people are going to still want their IPAs.
Yep, fair enough.
You know, not too many people like us go into a bar and be like, what's your English mild, or what's your
what's your ESB?
Yeah, and I mean, I toured around Dallas a little bit, and I found plenty of, you know, mind you, each site only had maybe one option.
Sure.
But you know, what was your brown, what was your amber, what was your ESB? Because everything else, like Martin House, oh my god. The amount of seltzers they have there. They had a mustard beer too, by the way.
Did you drink it?
I tried it. It was I'm glad that the guy did not sell me a taster, and he just gave me a little bit to try. But that thing, he says it sells awesome in hot summer days, and people love it for like when they're mowing lawn and stuff and pairing it with a hot dog.
So I could see that with a cucumber beer or a cucumber seltzer. Mustard though,
it was tart. I am glad it was the last thing I had there, and I'm glad we had like another 30-minute drive before the next brewery. So Bats McGee in the chat saying he wants his IPA. Toot in our chat saying that if Sierra Nevada made Olivia Quad with plums again. I think we talked about that on our show when we had Sierra Nevada on our show.
Yeah.
But anything else you want to touch on this article?
No, we can move on.
Wendy?
I'm good. I think we've covered it all. I do think though that people want the mix packs of the IPAs right now, and I like mix packs just because it means I don't have to buy so many of the same thing, so it gives me a little variety. I like the Hazy Little Thing series.
Yeah, Hazy Little. I mean, Dan, I think you like that series too when they shipped it out
terrible.
To you. It wasn't
not at all.
Overly bitter, and it didn't taste of like spruce and pine and stuff. So
no, it didn't. It's not something I would go buy, but as far as an IPA, it was palatable as far as I thought.
Well, Wendy, you're going off.
I went looking for an Alaskan mix pack here recently, so
I bought the last one at Kroger today.
That's why you couldn't find one, Wendy.
No, I had to go to 3 different stores to get what I actually wanted. But because you can get amber anywhere, but you can't always get all the other stuff. Anyways, do we want to move on to my article now?
Yeah. What do you want to talk about today?
Talk about yours first.
No.
So my article, I found in Gulf Digest of all places. Don't ask me how. It looks like Treehouse was looking to expand their operation, and during COVID found a country club that had shut down, and they opened it up here a few months ago. Back in June, they opened it during the US Open. Yes. In June, they posted photos celebrating the opening of the clubhouse in Tewksbury, about a half an hour north of Boston. They've got a wood panel tap room, a pro shop, a putting green with the Treehouse flagstick, and of course, lots and lots of beer. I think they said there was something like 78 taps that they put in. But here recently in August, they actually opened up where they have a 9-hole golf course. And I've always said that, you know, if you can have something to go along with the brewery, I think a lot of people will come in. I know there was that place in Texas that we interviewed. Was it Texas where they had the disc golf course?
Live Oak, yeah.
And then I have a friend who really thinks that somebody needs to pair a laundromat and a brewery because those two things kind of, I think they could make a lot of money off of them.
Forget about your laundry at some point.
So I'm just curious, like, would you guys go to this golf course because it's Treehouse? I don't know if
I
you're
would,
golfers.
if I wanted the opportunity to see friends and they're golfers and I don't care about golf, like I'll be like, hey, we could go here and I'll be your caddy because I know I'm gonna get, amazing beer. And like that's probably what I would get up to, but I wouldn't necessarily go here myself to play golf and drink. Like I think it would be more secondary or an opportunity to be like, hey, when your friends, obviously they want to get, especially in Michigan or Boston, they got their tee times. So they want to make sure they get on the links. For me, I just want to make sure I get in a few beers. So I'll just be like, I'll go drink with y'all. But when the choices are go join them and it's probably all like standard macro lager and then the few summer beers like Oberon or Shock Top or something like that, I'm like, I just don't want to spend the time. Bats McGee in the chat saying I'd go for the Treehouse beer, but I don't golf. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the worst golfers in the world. And especially if they had, but I'd go and do like you do, Ken, and just be their caddy, especially if you got people driving around on golf carts bringing you beer to buy. Like you have a lot of golf courses. I would totally be down for that. But like I know a lot of people drink on the golf course, so I guess everyone will be playing shitty. But yeah, I guess if you're into golf, though, it's really cool.
Everyone I know drinks on the golf course. Everyone
yeah,
I know
that's
that
what I say. Like I
that's
can't think
part
of
of the
anyone who
reason
doesn't.
they golf. Let's be honest.
They all drink, but I think they also want to all day drink. Whereas these beers, especially like Treehouse, like I would hope they get a little bit more sessionable with their 78 taps, that they have a little bit more, 4 to 6% ABV beers. Because I can only imagine if you knocked out 3 cans of Julius while playing 9 holes, you're probably going to be
probably not finishing the 9 holes. You're just
not at all.
So even though we don't golf, what is the one pairing you think would work out that would make you want to go to visit a brewery?
I got one that came right to my head. Sorry, Ken. And you could never do it. No place in the world will allow it, but beer in a shooting range.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I don't see that being a good idea.
But that would get me there.
I mean, you could probably pull it off for like after the fact and just be like, hey, you can go shooting. And then once you enter here, you're no longer allowed back in the shooting range. So if you're like, hey, let's go shooting and then go have a beer or two, that might not be a bad secondary thing.
That could work, but I don't know anyone, like any state, that would allow you to sell beer at a shooting range in any capacity.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, we're talking legalities and stuff here. Like I mean, for me,
perfect world.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you could just take a can of beer in there with you.
Yeah, like for me, like I would, we've talked about this before, and I remember Nick was kind of like shocked when I said this, but I would love some type of beer or bar in a hospital.
Yeah, you could totally use that there too.
There's some places where you're there for so long because your loved one is in surgery, or you just want to be able to, because you're there and you're waiting, like get something instead of whatever's in the vending machine. Like you could easily do like and the rules for these hospitals are crazy with regards to what you can sell food and drink wise already. For example, at U of M Health Systems, like you cannot sell regular Coke or any regular soda. Like it has to be all diet or zero sugar.
Oh wow!
So there's
don't get it.
I don't know the why. I just know one of the people that owned a bunch of the delis inside U of M hospital systems and the rules that they had to follow for a lot of the things. So obviously there's no way you're going to be able to get alcohol if you can't sell regular Coke.
Yeah, no.
But for me, honest to God, there's a place that opened up in Grand Rapids that does duck pin bowling. But I would love some type of multi-lane bowling alley that does the handful of different bowling in the US. So there's
Like
duck
5
pin,
pin.
candle pin, you could do 5 pin because all the lanes are nearly the same size lengthwise. So you could get in there and easily install different types of lanes. Or what did we learn? 9 pin or something
9
like
pin,
that.
yeah, 9
over
pin in
in
Texas.
Texas, yeah. So there are
Wait, you're telling me there's different types of bowling?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So 5 pin is a massive Canadian type of bowling where it's a lot smaller ball, almost like a bocce ball. Same with candle pin, but instead of the pins being like pin shaped, they're just like a tall candle.
And you just leave them laying there too, don't you?
Yep,
After you roll? I thought so.
Yep. Duck pin is another small ball bowling type alley. So like in Michigan, we have 1 duck pin lane and no 5 pin lanes that I know about.
There's a duck pin lane on Mackinac Island too.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. So in one of the hotels.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
This is bowling time with
bowling time with
Ken.
Ken.
Fascinating.
But
I feel like we could do a TikTok series on this, Ken.
On bowling?
Just saying.
I mean, Ken had a great
The
shot.
different types of bowling lanes that are available or that you think should be paired with a brewery.
The issue is, and I'm not going to lie, I did look to see if there's any bowling alleys for sale recently, not because of this conversation, but other conversations. And sadly, only like Fred's of Roscommon is for sale, which would be a great buy, but then you'd have to move to Roscommon.
Turn it into a 5 pin lane and be like, let's go.
Yeah, you'd probably piss off more people than anything doing that. Toot says we have a small pin bowling alley in Savannah. Yeah, there's a handful of different bowling alleys that I think would do well. Like duck pin's doing great in Grand Rapids.
Is it?
I'm
not surprised. You roll a smaller ball with that too, don't you?
Yeah, and you don't need like I don't think you need equipment or anything like that. I don't know if you need bowling shoes, but yeah, it's and they're charging like $30 or $35 an hour for a lane.
Oh, dang.
And people are paying it. But if you could tie in, there used to be a Alley 59 over in Clinton Township used to be a massive craft beer bar and bowling alley. And then there was another one up in like Lapeer that was an awesome bowling alley and craft beer bar. But if you could turn it into like a brewery where you not only you get the brewery destination, it'd have to be probably a brew pub, a brewery destination with bowling alley. That'd be great.
So we do have something like that out here. And if you come out for the Red Wings game, State 48 in Glendale, it also has a bowling alley. So it's a pretty cool place that a lot of people go to.
Yeah, I mean, I get 2 check bags and I can fit 3 balls in a check bag. That's for sure.
Nice.
The fun thing is axe throwing next to a brewery that serves while you're working out your inner Viking. That's what Toot says.
I went to when I was in Greenville in Taylor's, there's a brewery that right across the way, like right across the parking lot is an axe throwing. And I did that when I was there. They didn't sell beer at the axe throwing. We brought it from the brewery over to drink while we were axe throwing.
Nice.
Yeah, Big Buck obviously in Auburn Hills is now an axe throwing place and football bowling, foaling. Yeah, it's urban bowling. That's what it's called because you can't call it foaling if it's not a foaling facility. That's a trademark, which is good on them because if you can do that, that's what you get for loading up before an 0-16 Lion season. You create a game because that's the only entertainment you got. What about you, Wendy? I mean, we talked about all the different places we'd love to open or go to.
I don't know if I would pick any games. Mainly because I do love board games, but that's at every brewery anyways. I think I would probably like a brewery and a bookstore. So while I'm perusing books and trying to figure out what I'm going to spend my money on, I can have a beer or two. I'd probably spend a lot more money in the bookstore if they let me drink beer while I was looking. I'm not going to lie.
In Fort Collins. So as much as you say board games, there's like brewery board games, and then there's board games like your Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, etc. There was a place in Fort Collins that was a bar and board game place, and they had like people signing up to do D&D one shots, and when we went there, it was packed. So
Wow.
So
I mean,
I've
that's.
never
Oh, go on.
I've never played D&D, but there is this really fun game called Rainbow Pirates
Oh,
Okay.
that I'm highly addicted to. That I
boy.
think
Oh boy.
we should have more available more often. So Rainbow Pirates, everyone look that up. It's fun.
Well, as we
Speaking
go
of-
through Rainbow Pirates, I got nothing else to segue off of that, so we're just gonna go in. So the business Tilray, which is a Canadian cannabis organization, has been on the assault buying different beverage organizations from the big breweries. So if you actually look at what they bought, I believe it was just a few weeks ago, as I'm bringing it up on the screen right now. Of course, you can watch it live as well as on demand on youtube.com/better on draft. This right here talked about all the brands that Tilray is purchasing from Anheuser-Busch, including Shock Top, Breckenridge, Blue Point 10 Barrel, Red Hook, Widmer, Square Mile, and Highball Energy. Along with this, so this came out roughly 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. Tilray actually went through and purchased something from Molson Coors as well, which is the Trust Beverage Organization, which is a cannabis-infused drink maker that Molson added. As we were starting the podcast, obviously a lot of breweries were being purchased by these big name breweries. So I guess my question to you guys is this a sign of the times where we might start seeing these major organizations start selling off the craft breweries to stick to their domestic and malternatives that they currently sell? Like, will we see a sale of Goose Island anytime soon, or Elysian, or Wicked Weed? Or do you think these are all still on a different level than other breweries? And I will start with Wendy.
I think some of them are still on a different level, but yeah, I do see that they're going to have to start selling some of these off because their shares are dropping, period. Like their main brands aren't as popular as they were, especially with a lot of people going over to seltzers and RTDs. So I think they have to figure out a way to get rid of some of the stuff that they were trying to diversify with that wasn't necessarily the best option for them.
I agree with you. I think the fact that all of these alternative beverages, including spiritless cocktails themselves like RTDs, seltzers, etc., like that's where a lot of the business is going. But you could only own so much capital to where you may need to sell old capital. Is this going to allow us to see a lot more conglomerates like Canarchy or what the CBA used to be? Dan?
Yeah, so, I'm looking at these that are being sold. I'm not surprised Anheuser-Busch is selling off a bunch. But, like, looking at these brands, can anyone here name a beer outside of ESB that Red Hook makes?
No.
I bet you probably can. I can't.
No.
So, they're selling off what seems like low producing or just low, performance as far as beers go, as far as sales go, because, the only other one I know here, yeah, everyone knows Shock Top, but 10 Barrel is the only other one I even know on this list outside of ESB or Red Hook for their ESB. I think they're dumping off just underperforming, and this company picking them up is hoping they're going to do better.
I think if they put in a decent amount of effort to rebrand the brand, like Shock Top needs a rebrand.
Oh, big time.
That like Widmer Brothers, I think their Heffy is one of like the more well-known beers out there. I swear there was a beer from Blue Point that we have that I've enjoyed, and I just don't remember it because I remember Blue Point back before like the craft beer boom here in Michigan. That was one of the beers that was always on the shelves here in the craft area, like going to 8 Degrees Ferndale that long ago. So you think that, well, let's on this document, there is the handful that Anheuser-Busch still owns, including Golden Road, Elysian, Goose Island, Karbach, Four Peaks, Wicked Weed, and Devil's Backbone. I mean, here in Michigan, at least, if it's not Goose Island, there really isn't much that I really know about other than, like, you know, I know about the handful of beers that Elysian, Golden Peak, and Golden Road, Four Peaks, and Wicked Weed made, but
yeah, everything else, Four Peaks is local to Arizona. You don't see it outside the state. Golden Road's pretty much just the Southwest, like Nevada, Southern California, and Arizona. I think a lot of these are just regional. And, you know, Four Peaks, for example, is the biggest brewer in Arizona. They'll probably never get rid of that. You see how much Golden Road and Goose Island make. So I don't think they're going to get rid of those. It doesn't show the numbers of what these breweries are letting go of make, which is too bad to see the comparison.
I believe they did a combined number, which is 495K in 2022.
Between all of them?
It says Shock Top, Breckenridge, 10 Barrel, and Blue Point. So it does not include Widmer, Red Hook, Square Mile, and Highball.
And just those few did 495, which is what Goose Island did on their own.
Yes, that is correct. Those 4 did a Goose Island.
Yeah, so I think they're just getting rid of some of the underperformers. So you look at Devil's Backbone, I don't know anything they do, or Platform. Oh, they ceased operations, apparently. I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, those look like they're underperforming. I'm surprised I held on to those too.
Yeah, Omission, I think, is their gluten-free brewery. I feel like that's like a Trader Joe's beer that I see out there.
Might be.
But yeah, along with Tilray starting their partnership with Molson Coors 2, buying the Trust Beverage, which is cannabis. I feel like a lot of these acquisitions and breweries that have kind of maybe spread themselves a little too thin are going to start selling and creating space for what's currently hot, as opposed to brewing what's currently hot at those breweries. So I mean, I could see Goose Island easily selling here just because, like,
Kings and Convicts will be coming up soon.
Oh shit, yeah. I mean, Kings and Convicts is apparently got money.
Yeah.
The same with Wicked Weed. I mean, Wicked Weed's that huge southeast area over in Asheville, North Carolina. Like, I think the people of Wicked Weed, if they could figure out someone to buy that organization, they would try to get it sold in a heartbeat. Because I just don't think any of these brands took off. Like, they tried to get these brands to outsell some of the bigger breweries, but in turn, like, Sierra Nevada's still on the top, Yingling's still on the top, Sam Adams still on the top. Obviously, the number one craft brewery in the U.S., Pabst Brewing, is still on top. Thank you. Appreciate you appeasing me. Yeah, so I just, Dan, you think that there's going to be a lot more consolidation from the bigger breweries to medium-sized organizations buying them out? Like Kings and Convicts, is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, I could see them doing that. If you've got this cannabis company buying a bunch, I could see Kings and Convicts buying more, or someone similar. It doesn't have to be them. They're really focused on the Southwest, really. But there definitely could be some that come out and start buying some of these from the big guys. I
mean, I think a big player, especially with the Monster Energy cash infusion, Canarchy, could easily come in and buy a handful of breweries and not bat an eye with the amount of money they have. Do we see any Michigan breweries selling anytime soon? I mean, I didn't want to ask Alaskan, but I mean, they've been brewing for 40 years. I'm curious what's going to happen when they're ready to retire. They didn't look like they were ready to retire, but
Their employees
didn't.
they've got employee share.
Gotcha.
So
Well, I mean, that
don't
doesn't
see
mean
that.
much. New Belgium had employee share.
that's true. They don't look like they're stopping anytime soon.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
both
not.
obviously still have a hand in that brewery.
If you listen to the craft beer news only, go check out the Alaskan Brewing podcast that we just released a few days ago. We just recorded it here tonight on Friday, which we record every Friday starting 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Facebook.com/Better On Draft, Twitch.tv Better On Draft, Kick.com/Better On Draft, YouTube.com/Better On Draft. That's everywhere that we're live. So you can interact with us like our boy Toot McCrog. Talking
Toots.
about Devil's Backbone was great. Then they went to I'm guessing the ... is AB, and people were angry. It was the same with Wicked Weed. I talked about going to Wicked Weed like 2 weeks after they got bought, and the staff were happy because they had health insurance.
Yep.
And the people in Asheville were pissed. And I'm like, it's hard to balance that kind of worth, but that is going to do it for the craft beer news segment. We will be back next week. Next week, our guest is the chain brewery, BJ's Brewhouse. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the world of, I don't think they're even franchisees. I think they're all corporate, but corporate brewing across the United States with their head brewer. So we're going to learn a lot more about BJ's. And then in 2 weeks, we've got Harold Remlinger. We're going to be talking about building a brewery from the ground up. And when I mean the ground up, I'm talking nuts and bolts brewery architecture. So that is going to do it for this episode of the Better On Draft podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Of course, all the social media is at Better On Draft. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better On Draft. Have a good night.
Cheers.